when we talk about a gift or a talent, we have young people that we know about. In the arts world, there was Theodore Jericho. He died at 27. We have Jean-Auguste Dominique Anger. We have lots and lots of them like that. That either, we have some of them in Hollywood also. We have Heath Ledger. How many of us know who Heath Ledger is? He was the Joker in Batman. Anyway, these guys, they died young. Not because they didn't have the gift, but because they weren't guided with the gift they had. Now, if talent won't work on its own, if hard work won't work on its own, what will work? Now, people say you should be pious. You go to church, you pray, you go through all the motions, you study the Bible, etc. I was a student here once, and my activities during the week was full of going to the fellowship. In my third year, I was made the assistant choir coordinator for the fellowship. So Monday was the only free day. Tuesday, after 5 to 7 lectures, you rush to the secretariat. Maybe you leave early, rush secretariat around 6:30. You pack the drums, go to the Bible study. After the Bible study, ESCO's meeting. Maybe a little, 20, 30 minutes. 9 o'clock, you get to your room. There's nothing else you can do. Wednesday, it's rehearsals, 8 to 10. Thursday, it's prayer meeting, the same sequence as Tuesday. Friday is instrumentalists meeting. I was head of the instrumentalist arm then. I played the drums. Saturday, 4 o'clock, you go for ESCO's meeting. 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock, you go for your practice, your choir practice. 7 o'clock, you're done. 8 o'clock, either you stay in Memblo or you go and come back. You have to be there at the EXCO's meeting, 8 to 10. Sunday, 6:30, you have to be there at 7 to rehearse. And so on and so forth. You finish at 12, then you still have to be on the meeting, etc., etc. You pray a lot, you do everything. But then, I'm sure many of us have friends, or even ourselves have experienced this gap where even with all our piety, even with all our spirituality, we still don't get the results that we desire. We still don't get the exact thing that we set out to get. So what works? And then our parents, the older ones, they call them the baby boomers. I don't know if that works in Nigeria because we're far behind the rest of the world. They told us, you have to go to school. Go to school. Study, get good grades, and then everything's going to work. How many of us still believe that works now? We have older ones, we have people that are out there. They did well here, but when they got out there, whatever things they did while they were here ended while they were here. When they got out there, they saw that the world was a whole different ball game. So what exactly works? One thing I've known that I've employed in my study of art, employed in life, is the use of personal power. Personal power. Now, personal power is what gets you up in the morning, gets you to it, gets you to stay at it until it's done, whatever it is that you're doing. Personal power is that thing that burns in your stomach, that won't leave, that you just have to get done. Personal power is consistency, is persistence at what you're doing. Now, I've outlined 2 or 3 things here that could be put under personal power. First is understanding your purpose. You're here for a purpose. Each and every one of us has one exact particular thing that is unique to you, that no one else can fit in that small niche that you occupy. The best thing is to find out what that one thing is. I'm sure you have it already. You came with it. To find it, to hone it, and to find that small niche you fit into, and to own it, and to become the best you can be in that small niche. Purpose is primary to our pursuits as human beings. So no matter how gifted you are, no matter how talented you are, it can't by itself work, except you attach a purpose to it. I'm a pastel artist. I could decide I wanted to be drawing political figures or celebrities, and said I just wanted to be making portraits of people. But I decided, okay, I draw a portrait of a president today. It hangs in his house or wherever it hangs, and that's it. So why don't I attach a purpose to what I do, such that it affects a race, or it affects a group of people, or it affects something beyond myself, something beyond just getting the financial gains from it. So purpose is paramount. We have Zuckerberg today, which is synonymous to Facebook, right? We have Bill Gates, synonymous to Microsoft. We have Larry Ellison of Oracle. We have our own Dangote of Dangote Cements. All those people fit into a small niche that they've owned, harnessed, and grown until it's global in reach, in proportion, in purpose. So we need, as people, to find that one thing that makes us different from the next person. That's one thing that makes you unique. That no one else can fit into that small space. It is existent. It's in each and every one of us. Since we realize that we are not always going to be here, we're going to be either forgotten or remembered. I do tell this story to friends that when Achilles was younger and they wanted to go to the battle of Troy, his mom called him and told him, I've seen a vision. There are two options for you. One, you go to war. You will die in war. But for 1,000 years, people are going to sing your name. You're going to be remembered. Two, you stay home. You will have a family. You will be happy. But your children remember you. Children's children might remember you. But after that, you're going to go away forever. He chose to go to war. Now, that might be extreme. There might be a balance where you have a good family, which is a strong part of society, which is the balance we need to pursue whatever we want to pursue. But he chose to go to war. And today, we hear of Achilles because he chose his purpose, which was war. Now, the second thing is action. We'll never, ever, ever, ever have enough time to do everything we want to do. But we're going to have enough time to do what we need to do. We know about setting priorities. Beyond that, we need to set what we call posteriorities. These are things that they are not important. They have no bearing on what you want to achieve. So you put them aside, you put them to the back, and then you do the things that are more important first. And maybe you have time. Then you go to the things that are less important. They are at the bottom of the list. Or maybe shouldn't be there at all. We all have 24 hours allotted to each and every one of us. It doesn't change. You can't increase it. You can't add to it. You can't remove from it. It's 24 hours. Whatever you do with it, accumulated over a long period of time, is what will give you results. Sometimes when I'm walking in the studio and it's maybe midnight and I'm tired and I say, how I wish I could just stop time and walk one more hour and then maybe tomorrow will come. But it's not possible. It has to change. So we all have this 24-hour period that we can cram as much as possible into. There's sometimes when I would sit and okay, there was a time when I sat and I decided that, what if I could have one ideal day that everything went as it was supposed to go? I wake up early, I pray, I exercise, and I go to the studio. I stay there till maybe 10, 11 a.m. I have my breakfast, read a little, go back to the studio, stay there till 3:30, take a walk, maybe visit someone, come back in the evening, work till night. I'm not married, so I still have that liberty. So what if one could have that ideal day where everything you're supposed to do is crammed into that day? You do it well, and then you duplicate that day over and over and over and over again, you're going to have results. And the world only reckons with your result. The world will only reckon with your result. The world doesn't care about your family, doesn't care about your life. The world doesn't care about where you're from. The world doesn't care about your background. The world doesn't care about how poor you are, how unprivileged you are. The world only cares about your result. You might not always get the permissions you need from the people that are ahead of you. You might not get the permission of your parents, or your pastor, or your mentor. But once you find that thing that you need to do, that burns inside you, that burns in your stomach, you get to it. You don't wait for anyone's permission. You don't wait for anyone to tell you what to do. Because you know, this thing is my passion. It's my purpose. You learn the requisite skills and you get to it every day. And I assure you, it's been done before. It's been done over and over and over again. That thing you love doing, there's someone somewhere in the world doing it better than you. Gets to it earlier, stays at it longer, goes to bed later, and has more results than you do. In the long run, when they stand you and that person, who you have the same gift with or the same talent, they'll beat your hands down over and over again. So since you know you don't have that time, why waste it? Why lounge? There are times when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like getting to that studio. But I know that day has to have its own results. Or else, in the long run, it's going to be evident that I missed that day. So I get to it. There was a speaker, a public speaker that said he's in his 50s and so. He decided he wanted to be fit and started running. And then I think he had a conference or so that lapsed into the night, to the early hours of the next morning. And he had maybe 2 hours of sleep. And then he was tired. But he realized that if I make an excuse today not to go and exercise, I would have a reason to excuse myself tomorrow. And then next tomorrow. And then it will be a trend. And then you forget your purpose, you forget why you started in the first place. Brian Tracy was the one that said we have this disease, we call it excusitosis. I can't remember how it's pronounced, but of course it's a made-up word. So let me say it's excusitosis, where we excuse what we need to do. We know we need to do these things. We need to do it. We know we need to do it. But then to get ourselves up and do it and to stay at it until it's done, we find that hard. Without that, we can't achieve our goals. We can't get to where we're going to. 24 hours and how it's spent. Now, I usually wonder what would have happened if Gates had decided to maybe be an attorney, or Zuckerberg had decided to be a businessman. He finished in Harvard and then went to do something else. Would we have Facebook today? We won't. We'll have something else, maybe an alternative to it. But that particular niche he fits into. I read recently online in Forbes that he's now worth $71 billion. $71 billion. Sometimes in May, he made $1 billion in a day. Why? His stocks surged. And he made a billion. Not in naira, dollars. $1 billion in a day without raising his hands. Why? Because he had that result over and over again every day until it compounded to a point where they didn't need to work so hard. Even though they still work very hard, they didn't need to work so hard to make $1 billion in a day. Okay. Now, there's a Spanish conquistador in the 19th century. In 1813, Hernan Cortez was given permission to lead an expedition to Mexico. The Spanish were extending their territories then. Now they had gotten Cuba, and the governor of Cuba was Diego de Velázquez. Velázquez gave him permission to lead an expedition to Mexico, and he left. He's a very ambitious person. He left, and they got to Mexico. So when they came ashore, someone came to him and said there was mutiny. People were blah 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 blah, and then he wondered what to do. So he knew that if he killed the mutineers, there might be rebellion, there might be mutiny again, and things will just not go how he intended. So what did he do? He burnt the ships. First, he bribed the pilots of the ships, told them to bore holes in the ships, such that the ships sank. There was one left, and then he now told them the next day that some worms ate through our ships, and then they've gone aground, and there's nothing we can do about it. We have to move forward. And then when they discovered he was the one that did it, he told them, calm down, I did it. But if there's anyone of you that wants to go back home, to your family, to your warm beds, to Cuba, because their minds were not on the war, their mind was on gold, Aztec gold. So he told them, if you want to go, if you're a coward, get into the ship, you can go back. No one answered. He burnt the ship then. And because they had nowhere to go back to, the only path for them was forward. And then those men, those few men, managed to get allies from the Indians living in Mexico then. And then they went against Tenochtitlan, which was the center of the Aztec Empire. Aztecs numbering in hundreds of thousands. They conquered these people. Why? Because their boats were burnt and they had nowhere else to go but forward. Now that is called the death ground strategy, because it's a way, no matter how much you achieve, no matter how far you've gone, you go back, you mentally go back to the beginning and tell yourself, I've done nothing. I've done absolutely nothing. And then you become a beginner, and then you reset yourself and you get to walk again. It's been done over and over and over again by these people we look up to. No matter how far they've gone in life, they reset and pretend, or they act as if they have not achieved anything, and they start over again. The death ground strategy. So how many things have I listed now? Purpose. What else? Action. A bias for action. And the death ground strategy, which means that no matter how far you go, no matter how difficult it is, you surge forward. How many of us know about Colonel Sanders of KFC? He started KFC when he was 65. And then history says that he had over 1,009 no's before a yes. What did he do? He knew that he had this chicken recipe. When he fried the chicken, people bought the chicken from him and they loved the chicken. So he decided to sell the recipe to people. He approached him and said, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll give you my recipe. Use it to sell chicken to your people. But for every chicken you sell, I'm going to get part of it. And then they'll laugh at him and maybe slam the door in his face. But he went there over and over and over again, 1,009 times before he got a yes. Now, who among us would go back the second time, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth? He knew this thing has to work. This thing has to work. It's the only path I know. It's the only path that I've decided to move on. Many of us have not really decided what we want to do in life, and that's why we still flounder. That's why we still lounge. That's why we still have time to do some things that have no bearing with our purpose. That's why we still have time to do some things that won't matter in the next 2 days, won't matter in the next 3 days, won't matter in the next 1 week. We'll forget about totally. Okay. Now, persistence. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 24 says, the hand of the diligent will bear rule, but the slothful will what? Be under tribute. Is there anyone who wants to be under tribute here? Will not all be Bill Gates, will not all be Zuckerbergs, will not all be Dangotes, but we have that part that we fit into. When we focus on it and do what needs to be done, there we get results. Now, there was a day when I sat down in the corner of my sitting room and I was crying. I was weeping. There was sweat in my body and I was feeling sad, I was feeling bad, because it was like a revelation. I realized that you're going to die one day today. You won't always be here. And then after I had mapped out what I wanted to do, I realized that it's going to take me at least almost 400 years to achieve it. 400 years to achieve it. How long do I have to live? And I had to call a friend that night, and he consoled me and told me that we just have to do what we have to do. There will never ever be enough time. Ever. It's limited. Brothers, sisters, our time here is limited. Let's get to work. Goethe said something. He said, if you think you can do it, or dream you can get to it, boldness has genius, power, and magic to it. Thank you.